Definitely.
Good. Okay, so my name is Bernadette Smith. Oh, let me know when you're ready, when you guys are ready, whoever's leading.
I'm ready. I'm starting to record this right now. So whenever you feel comfortable and it's going on right now.
Okay, great. So my name is Bernadette Smith, and I'm a member of the Manchester Point Arena Band of Como Indians. My grandmother is also from Stewart's Point, which is known as Kashaya to my people. So I was born, raised here on the coast. I guess they call it South Coast. So I've lived on the reservation for about, since I was 12 years old. I'm 34 now. I was raised traditionally, culturally with my father, David Smith. He has taught me, I'm a traditional singer, traditional dancer. Been doing that most of all my life since I can remember, which I really, I hold those things really close to me. Just until a couple years ago, I started learning a little bit more, trying to step out of just, the dancing and singing, which I love, but I know those things, have their place and stuff. So I started, well, I didn't start looking, actually. I wasn't looking for anything. What happened was I just came across an article in the newspaper talking about deforestation and things happening in my forest here. And, it kind of, it sparked my curiosity for some reason. At that time, I didn't know what that reason was. I wasn't sure why, I showed interest in this or not, but, I just followed that. And I found a lot of things out about deforestation and about what that means for our native people. You think logging companies and you see these trucks full of trees and, we all see them. We don't really know where they're coming from and we don't really know where they're going. But, once you start realizing how those things are pulled from the earth and in the locations that they are, you start noticing that those places are particularly sacred to our people, that they're finding these things. So with that happening, I learned a little bit about this thing called frilling. Frilling is a way the forestry companies kill trees in the forest that they don't want. So here they log redwood trees, right? So tan oaks grow alongside redwood trees. For me, I think of them as brother and sister, right? They're family. They grow together. The tan oaks are the second tallest tree to the redwood tree. But none of us would really know that because we don't really see these tan oaks anymore. Not that tall. We see them kind of bushed out and kind of low to the ground, but that's just because they're not with their family. They're not with the redwood. Only when they grow alongside those redwood trees do they get high as the redwood tree gets. So that's really important to remember. So I've been doing this for about 6 years, just learning about the environment and what that means for the tan oak tree. I learned that the tan oak tree amongst all oak trees are going to be, they face a hardship right now when it's called sudden oak death. Now, sudden oak death it's just now that it's spread so wide and so deep into the earth that our trees are finding it hard to survive. And we think about all the fires that happened in Northern California, all those oak trees that were burnt, and all those acorns that were lost for our people who gathered in that area. There has been a lot of prayer put out toward that, and hopefully, sudden oak death can maybe be stopped in those areas. The tree burning, although we didn't set those fires, it does have a healing effect on our trees. As we all know that Native American people practice traditional burning of diseased trees. So that's just a whole nother thing. And I know there's a lot of my friends out there who are more expertise on that, but my focus is gathering the acorns. So I'm gonna try to stay focused on that. So I've been doing it, like I said, for about 6 years. Started with just learning about the trees and this method of deforestation that they were using here, which was, they call it hack and squirt. It's where they actually cut into the tree with an axe and they inject an herbicide into the tree and it kills the tree from the inside out. So they leave these trees standing like they're healthy, but really they're not. And you would see they turn into a pinkish like salmon color when they're totally dead. So if you guys are driving and you ever see oak trees that are totally that color, It could either be, sudden oak death or this form of deforestation. Another important thing to say about that is what it does to, not only does it kill the tan oak tree, but it also harms everything around it. All the other plants and the animals and everything, the water systems. So like we all know, we're all kind of savvy to, we're all connected, all the water, the trees, everything like that. So that goes into play with that. I find it very hard to find sustained forests that are able to produce acorn enough for, families to gather. So like I said, this is my 6th year gathering, and I've learned alongside my little cousins, I just want to give a shout out to my little cousins on Manchester Point Arena Reservation, because you kids, you stood with me, you guys learned alongside me, and I always tell you guys, I'm doing it for you. I want to be that person that showed you that. I want to be able to open your eyes and see and enjoy this beautiful tradition. So, I didn't have many adult support in the beginning, but that's where your youth are there. Reach out and they'll help you, and they always encourage me. And when I thought I wasn't doing something good, to them it was amazing, and it kept me going. So I'll get a little emotional talking about the kids, but they really helped me out a lot. They really did, and they know who they are, so no names needed. One thing about the acorn, as we know, with all this sudden oak death happening, and it's affecting 100% of the tan oak trees specifically. So amongst other trees, they'll be affected, but specifically the tan oak tree will 100% be affected by this disease. Now, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for me? That means 100 years from now, my children's children won't have it, right? This tradition will be gone. So learning about all that and learning about, how sacred this was, and just getting out and doing it, you really learn and feel a connection with the trees. And like I was telling my sister, I was never one to talk like that. I was never one to say like, oh, I connect to the trees. And, to me, that was a cliche way that natives talk. That's just me. I just thought this is just what they expect. That's just what they say. We're connected to the birds. And at that time in my life, that was just something I thought went along with, the Hollywood package of what a Native American is. I didn't know that was real. Until now, I got out there, I put my hands in the dirt. I scouted for trees. I crawl around and I get under bushes and things like that. And just this year, I went to this tree that I've been going to for the last few years, and it's really hard to find places to gather. That's another whole nother issue. We're hit with no trespassing signs. We're gathering off sides of windy roads that are very, very dangerous, things like that. I can't just go into any forest and gather. Somebody's always stopping, even to this day, pulling over. What are you doing here? Why are you here? What's in those buckets? And it's like, I don't know, like what, if I should explain this to them, if they have, if they deserve an explanation. I don't really know. So those are just a couple little things that I come across in the work that I'm doing, is just having those places to gather, to bring your children. And that all comes with that land back. We want land for this. On our reservation, we don't grow tan oak trees. We're at too low of an elevation. There's no natural resources on my reservation that provide that for us. And that's just part of what has happened to many natives across America. They put you in these destitute lands, right, that don't have nothing, contaminated, no clean water, things like that. That's just how it is. That's systematically placed that way. It's our job to get out there and try to expand that. So that's kind of what I've been doing, making relationships throughout my community with non-native people, non-native allies. I've worked with the Point Arena Air Force Base. It's an old base that's been closed for 40 years. We were able to host a traditional acorn ceremony gathering that our people used to have a long time ago to celebrate the acorn harvest every year. You don't see too many of those. happening. This specific area was very special to me because that's where all the tan oaks are. That's where the trees all are. That's where I gather. That's where I know and I can feel going back to that connection and just this year learning, you know, that I am connected. When I go to the trees and gather, you know, I know more now. I tell them, like, do you see me? I'm here. I'm gathering. You know, thank you for these acorns. Like, thank you. This is beautiful. Like, I really feel like me being out there and the trees seeing me there and gathering, I really feel this connection that I can't even describe. And I feel a peace, and I feel like these trees might be on their last years, you know, but at least they got to see one more person come. You know, they're feeding. And that tree this year fed, I would say, maybe 15 elders throughout Northern California. I was able to pass out acorn to a couple elders in Sacramento and Santa Rosa, and of course on my reservation, you know, some as old as 97 years old. Now those things are victories for me. It's why I do the things, why I do this, you know. I was able to do that this year, and I was just amazed by the amount of blessings that I felt inside from being able to share this food with my elders. And maybe some of them haven't had it in so many years since their aunties are gone, and these are older people, you know. So I was very, very honored to be able to do that and to give back and to honor the trees like that and honor Creator first and foremost. Always the Creator put me on a path, on a journey, and this is what it is. I never knew why. I wasn't environmental girl. I didn't, you know, I wasn't a tree hugger. I was just, you know, normal woman, right? But something sparked this interest, something pushed me, and I knew it was my responsibility to follow that, you know. And with that, I just became a whole nother person, spiritually and, you know, culturally. I feel like I'm going to be able to leave this world, this physical world, and be set on my next journey. You know, I did what I needed to do here. I feel like it's not finished yet, but I started and I'm continuing on that path. And so that was just a little bit about what I do and what why I do it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this other camera, Natalie. Yes. My sister's going to be helping me, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the acorns that I have here for the beginning preparation of the acorn soup. Okay. Let me know, Natalie. Okay. Okay. Ready. Okay. I don't know if she's switching. I'm going to mute mine. Thank you.
Bernadette, we can't hear you. I mean, I can't hear you. Let's see. Where'd she go?
I think Natalie might have hers on mute. So if she unmutes herself, if Natalie unmutes herself and then Bernadette mutes herself, then I think we might be able to hear. Thank you everybody for your patience. There's always some challenges when we're trying to do some virtual teachings, but we'll get through it. So this is all part of our process.
Natalie, we still can't hear you. We could see you're on the spotlight video, but we can't hear the sound.
Sometimes when you have two Zooms and under one Wi-Fi, it takes a lot of bandwidth. And that's what I found. One of the videos might run a little slower, if that helps.
Okay. Now just go off that one. I'm here. Okay, I'm just gonna go from over here.
Nat might have to
Can you
turn
hear me
up
now?
the volume.
Nat, just turn yours off, I guess.
We can hear you.
Just so you're not echoing.
We're not very savvy at this.
It's okay. We're all new to this. If we can have everybody else mute their phone that are participating, that would be helpful too.
Okay. There. I'm ready. Okay. So I'm gonna go grab my stuff and bring it right here. So one moment. For me. Okay, so first I wanted to tell you guys a little bit how you identify a tan oak acorn, or an acorn, a good acorn in general, okay? Okay, so if you're out and you're looking and you find the acorn tree or you see one on the floor, you want to make sure that it definitely doesn't have any holes in it. Okay, that's number one. Everybody kind of knows that, but if you didn't, that's fine. I do. No holes. Those are for worms, and we don't want those. Another good indicator is if it doesn't have the top attached to it. You don't want to pick one that hasn't a top attached. You might think, oh, that's really cute. You can save it. I have a lot of those that they're too perfect to crack, and they have the top, so I've saved them. But you guys could remember that that acorn isn't going to be good either. It might, but majority of the time it's not good. So you could leave that one. But the way that I know is if the bottom is really all cleared like this, it will be bright white. Oops, it'll be bright white when it first falls, but it'll remain this color right here, as it dries. These were gathered about 2 months ago. So the best time to gather, say, is like September, October till the beginning of November. That's when I gather. So I check out, some people leave the first fall for the animals. That's fine. But there are plenty of acorn trees where we can't go. So there's going to be plenty for them, right? But yeah, so if you find a good tree and you see them on the ground, you go ahead and take a look. Because the ones with the holes, the animals like those anyways, because they like those little weevils inside. So, they eat those too. So you could go ahead and leave those and not feel bad for them. So you definitely want them that have the white. That's the pro tip right there. Because if you can do that, don't waste your time with anything else, okay? If you see a lot that have white on them, white right here in the circle, I would just start picking those up. I spent a lot of time, like I said, I've been doing it 6 years. The first 3 years were not anything like they are now. I was picking up whole ones, I was picking up rotten ones, ones that poof into little blue powder, you know, when you crack them open. So I spent a lot of time learning in that way. So hopefully you guys can take this little information with you, and I can kind of help you not feel so discouraged, because that's kind of what happened with me. But I was willing to take those lessons, you know, for what I get today is definitely paid off. So that's number one, gathering the acorns. Now, this is just one little basket that I have that's full of these. I have about all those ones, if you guys see in the background, there's just so many. Let me see, I can just pull it right here. I have this one here. That one. Ooh, and this big sack. I'm not trying to brag, believe me. I'm not trying to brag or show off. I'm just kidding. But you know, this is just what I do. This is the most I've ever gathered in 1 year. And my sister Natalie, as you see her walking around, she has helped me this year so much. And you know, for the first few years, you kind of just had the kids and stuff, and then you're hoping for other adults to kind of get into it, and so you guys can share that time together. But you know, it took a little while for people to, you know, get on board with that, and kind of once she tasted it, once she actually tasted the finished product, she was addicted to it. And so she's like, I want some, you know, she wanted to have more. And so I said, well, you know what, come out and help me gather, and then we could, you know, have as much as we want. So that's kind of what happened this year. And so we've spent a lot of hours, you know, going up there to Eureka Hill Road right here in Point Arena and gathering and finding, and we get selective now. Before I wasn't able to do that. Before I was just so excited to find any, and I was gathering all these, and you know, a lot of them weren't good, and then they're so small. But you know, when you're first learning, those are the kinds of things that you go through. You learn as you go along. So now, you know, I go and I'm like, I'll leave those ones and keep going, you know, keep looking. So you just walk through the forest and you find the tree every year, but when they do, and we were very, okay. Yeah, so one good thing about this is my father really enjoys it. He's very, he's been through a lot of surgeries, and he's had, you know, diabetes and problems with his limbs, losing limbs and stuff like that these past 2 years. So with the acorn, you know, we had took my father to get prayed for in Kashaya, and as this man was praying for my dad, I was just there in the room. You know, this old man was in his room, he couldn't even come out of his bedroom, so he was in there praying for my dad, and I was listening, and he told him that he needed to eat acorn, that the acorn, the tannock, was a spiritual food that my dad needed to keep strong, you know. And that was about my 2nd year into doing the acorn. And so it kind of gave me this reassurance that what I'm doing is important. What I'm doing, I'm on the right path, you know. And I was very lucky to be in that room and hear this medicine man talk to my dad and tell him that, you know. I felt like that was the creator using me and putting me in these places, you know, to be able to receive that information. So it kind of really helped me continue doing what I'm doing and keep all those right intentions. And my intentions for today are for you guys to just go ahead and soak in what I'm saying. And if anything resonates to you, then that's good. You know, I pray for that. And I just kind of want to show you guys a little bit of a fun way that I learned to do it. I've learned on my own, kind of taking little things here and there and looking online a little bit that I didn't find too much that we could use online. I've watched many non-native people attempt to make the acorn in their own way, which was a little bit strange, you know, but they're trying, you know, they're trying. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my demonstration, and I'm going to kind of I'm not usually so professional, if you want to say. I'm just a regular, normal girl, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to you the only way I can, okay? Straight from my heart. Here we go. So we have our acorns. Now, traditionally, our people would have this little stone or a little log like this on wood, and they'd have one of these, or a little rock. This one was actually found right under the trees that I'm gathering from on Eureka Hill Road. The man who owns the property was nice enough to invite my family to gather there and from the trees, and they're the biggest 10 oak trees that I've ever seen are right there on his property. And I went back year after year, and finally he was able to share what he had found there. And he said, you've come here year after year, and you've really, shown me something different, and I didn't know that people really, wanted this, really did this anymore. And he gave me this, and he said he found it right there under the trees that I was gathering when his neighbor had knocked down some of those trees. So this right here is all the proof that I was looking for, that I knew spiritually our people were there. But you see, these non-native people want me to prove something to them in order for them to allow us access to these places. The forestry companies, how do you know your people were there? The Air Force, prove that your people were there. We're like, what do you mean prove it? Do you see these acorn trees? Do you see any acorn trees anywhere else? Like this, like, hello, they know we were there. I'm sure they unearthed many of these things building that airbase. This is just something that's left that I'm very, very lucky and honored to have. This means so much to me. Okay, so enough with that. There we go. I'm gonna grab this, and it's really easy. So you have your acorns, you wanna gather as many as you can. You go ahead and crack it. You just give it a little pop on the top. I like to put the pointy side up. And then you get your acorn out. And you do this repeatedly till you have as much as you want. And then we have our modern way of doing it, right? We have our modern way of doing it. We have these little guys right here. This is what I like to use when I'm just hanging out on the couch, when I'm just watching TV or anything like that. I just go ahead, pop it open. So this doesn't have, you don't have to have a pestle, you don't have to have anything. You can use a rock. I used a rock for first few years, just any rock that I found. But it's always good when you're just hanging out, on the couch and trying to get some done. So that's kind of what I do. And that's easy peasy. Now I have this. We all know about these. These are our mortars and pestles, right? So this one isn't from the coast, unfortunately, but I was able to receive this as a gift from a museum because we were doing the Acorn Festival. They heard all about it, and they wanted to help out. And they wanted to give me this for the kids to use to prepare our acorn because they had seen that we didn't have any. And I had put out a couple articles or requests in our local newspaper for people to return artifacts if they wanted, because we were needing them not just for a museum collection, but we wanted them used. We wanted to use those. So nobody reached out, but that's okay, right? Eventually somebody gave one. There was a couple people though messaging me and private messaging me, telling on neighbors, that had stuff and, but they didn't want me to say anything. So I did though, I did call those people that, I was tipped off about, which all denied any knowledge of anything like that, which is very strange. They like to collect these things, but, we like to use them. So here we go. So the first step would be that. I need those acorns, the heart one. Okay. So let's just say, we're not writing it, right? Okay. Oh, yeah. So we have them all put out. And what I like to do is when they're still wet, these ones are a little dry because they're kind of older. I've had them for a few months. I go ahead and I put them on a newspaper when they're wet. The newspaper kind of soaks up the oils and the moisture that's inside of them. I think it's important to make sure you put them on some kind of dry surface like that. So I go ahead and do that. and I let them dry for about 3 to 4 days, depending on your good sense. So as soon as you get them, if you want to crack them and start drying them while that sun in September is still here, I'd suggest to do that. Or you can wait a few months and you might not have to dry them that long. So you go ahead and you leave them for a few days like this. You turn them around, thank you. Mix them around, spread them back out. And you'll know that they're kind of ready when you feel this red skin that's on the outside. There's this little red skin on there. I learned this from my kid's YouTube video. Put the hand behind. Yes, so there's a red skin that's left on there. And our ancestors used to do a process that they like to call winnowing. So go ahead and have a special basket, of course, that was just for this process. It was kind of in the shape like this. Now this definitely isn't a pomo basket, but somebody had gave me this, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. So this type of basket where it kind of swoops up like this would be the process that they would do to get the skin off. So you would rub vigorously back and forth the acorn until the skin kind of just fell off. So I will. So you're left with these skins right here. These are just, see that? So you go ahead and just keep rubbing like this. And then they would do this thing once the skins were kind of off. They go ahead and blow. Well, that's a beautiful process, right? But sometimes, like yesterday, when I was trying to get some acorn done, I didn't have time to sit there and do all that, right? We're modern girls and we have a lot of stuff going on, but we always want to remember those old ways, right? And honor those old ways while we're doing the new ways. That's what I like to do. I like to think, oh, my ancestors might be looking down and thinking, wow, you know, she figured something out. Well, maybe they're laughing, I don't know, but I'm hoping that they're happy about it. So this is a little strange, okay? This is my #1 go-to right here. This is my hair dryer. Now, I don't know, this is a little funny, and some people always say like, what are you doing? But this is how it is, right? This is how I do it. I'm just showing you how I do it. You guys can do it any way you want. So I went for the first few years blowing and scrubbing and blowing and scrubbing. And then I just didn't have enough time. I was trying to get things going. We had the Acorn Festival coming up, and I said, where is my blow dryer at? So I went ahead and I grabbed it, and it just blows everything that I need right off really quickly. I usually do it outside, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it like this for you guys, right? I usually go outside and just blow it off. But that gets it done. It gets it done in, I'd say, 15 seconds, you're done. You have all the skins off. You're left with these beautiful kernels here ready to go. And I like to let them dry one more day after I get the skins off and just let them rest and get that last dryness that they're gonna get. So, you know, that's all like that. One thing I wanted to let you know about is another thing that I went through for the first few years is freaking out if they weren't perfectly yellow. I was looking for this beautiful acorn. I was looking at some elders' posts and elders, you know, people who were doing this a long time, looking at pictures they had shared. And of course, you know, they were perfect. They look beautiful. That's the look I thought my acorns were supposed to have. So I was always throwing them out and starting over until I kind of realized, you know, you work so hard at it. And one really important thing is that they turn colors. If you puncture the acorn when you're bringing it out, because see, this one just fell out easy because the acorn was dry. When they're wet and fresh, they stick inside the shell. And so sometimes you have to pull it and it punctures the acorn. And when they dry or start to dry, they turn a different color. And they look like powdery and kind of rotten, but they're not. It's just the oxygen getting inside the acorn because of the oils that are naturally in there. It just produces some kind of powder, but it's just like the powder we're about to make. That's what it is. So don't get discouraged there if they look like that. So once those are all done, and they're all skinned and everything, I kind of go through and I weed out which ones that I don't like. So before I was throwing out all the ones that were just oxygenated, and that wasn't good because I was left with half my crop. But see, some have this little brown right here, that color. Just depending if I'm like being really, really picky, I'll throw those ones to the side. I never throw them away, but I'll put them to the side, you know, just depends. So then I end up with this beautiful, like I've seen in the pictures, you know, when I do that. So I'm assuming that's what happened there. Like people put their best face forward, right, when they're sharing pictures and stuff. So I kind of learned that through trial and error that, you know, that's not the only way. That's not what they all have to look like. You know, everything has its own way, and it's just up to you to kind of figure that out. So I was able to do that and kind of come to terms with not everyone is going to look like the picture and all that. So once that kind of passed, I was able to be more content with what I was doing, which I really appreciate that lesson learned. And I've seen like people I teach a little bit to do it or show or help. They're doing that, throwing them out at them, like, no, like, don't, you know, I was picking up some and he's like, oh, I threw those out. And I was like, oh, no, you know, this is what happens when you're first learning. And one thing that kind of made me feel really bad about tossing them out was watching these old videos, these old documentaries of my aunties doing this. And Berkeley came out to Kashaya and filmed them doing it. And they had baskets that saved every little last crumb of the acorn powder. You know, they went from a basket to another basket, just getting that little bit that was left. And I thought, wow, you know, they're going through all these lengths for just that little tiny bit, but, you know, it was important to them, you know, and it was sacred to them. It wasn't just something you get, oh, I don't like this one and throw it, you know? So that kind of made me think, really watching that video, like, what did I get out of that, right? So I don't have those baskets to do that. I don't have those things that they use to do that and save. But what I can do is appreciate these and not waste them, you know, just throwing them around. So that's kind of what I was able to take from that movie, even though it was, you know, 60 years ago. You know, that's still something that you can learn by watching those old things. Like, what does that mean for me today? How can I use that in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it today? So that's kind of what I do. I don't waste, you know, I use it and utilize every piece of it. And you'll see once I move on from here. Okay, so we have that. We winnowed, we took our skins off, we let them dry one more day with the skins off. And then we're gonna go ahead. Let me move my tool, my secret weapon here. So that process alone, the gathering, the cracking, the winnowing, the waiting, all this happens in a period of, if you're making it start to finish, this is gonna take you about 10 days to do just that beginning part, okay? Now, if you have your acorns stored, that's going to cut down to 1 day. You can get them, maybe leave them to dry 1 day out of the shell, you know, if they're drying in the shell here. And that process is cut. But when you're doing it from the start to finish, gathering from the tree, cracking, drying, winnowing, drying, that's going to give you, just estimate a good 10 days in. Just give yourself 10 days. Don't rush through it, because that's just how it is, you know. And it kind of gives you an appreciation of like how our ancestors were able to just relax and do things like that. They weren't rushing things. They had things ready, you know, like now today we want things instantaneously, you know, and that's just how it is. And it's a really good reminder to, you know, go back and just really appreciate our ancestors for all that work and honor them, you know, and that's kind of what I like to do. I like to honor them. So, and how do I do that? Well, I bring it right back to this rock. Now, if you guys don't have one, I'm sure you guys, I mean, a lot of people do, like, you could reach out like I did. You know, I asked and I showed interest, and people are willing to give things. And I know the Mexican, Hispanic community, they use things like this, right? They have their molcajete and all that, and it's the same, you know, and that kind of helps me remember and feel connected to my brothers and sisters south of that man-made border. You know, we all have this connection. And I also know that I've looked in research to see how many tribes in Mexico did the acorn too. And there were many tribes of Mexico that gathered acorn and harvested acorn there. And you don't really see that too much or hear about it, but I'm hoping, you know, one day I'll get to meet somebody from there who's still processing like that and want to share that and share their secrets with me. Just kidding. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start grinding. I'm gonna need some, oh yeah, that. Yeah. So we have this sack here. This bucket is full of our already processed acorns that we've been processing. And we're gonna go ahead and these are already dried and on standby for any elders out there. And my cousin Connie made me this beautiful wooden spoon out of redwood so I can, Sister Connie, Clarence's wife, to go ahead and pull all my acorns out and fill up this little guy right here. So I really love that. And I really love to use any tools, you know, that I can that are available to us anyway. So what we want to do, of course, you go ahead, throw your acorns in there. Oh, that might be a little too much. I wish I had a bigger bowl, but I don't. So you go ahead and just start pounding, 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 right? I like to go along the side like this and kind of rub it in sometimes, help it out there. Now this process takes a long time. It takes a really long time. So if you have a few hours to just hang out and get to, you know, be one with your ancestors, I would say this would be a good thing for you guys to do if you could do that. I definitely enjoy doing this. This is my favorite way to prepare the acorn, is doing this. It kind of just makes me feel like when I'm gifting it to people, you know, that they really, besides all the gathering time and the processing time, but this for me is where the sweat and things come in, you know, like that time just to watch it turn into it, you know, watch it turn into the powder, watch it. This is that process for me. This is that part. This is where it becomes, you know, what it is. So this is a very special part for me. But like I said, we're modern gals, right? Or if there's any guys in there. Right here we go. This is called the Ninja. So we go ahead and we add some. I'll take 2 cups out of there. We'll just use that cup. So I go ahead and I'll grab 2 cups of dried acorn ready to go. Here we go, and I just dump that in there. I'm not going to turn this on because it's going to be so loud. I'll mute. I honestly don't like this part. I don't like using this. And every time I do it, I just feel really assimilated. I'm just kidding. Okay, but you know, this is how it is. So I'm going to mute, and you're going to see how quick or how long it takes. Either one.
While Bern is doing that, if you still have questions, you can put them in the chat too. Just a reminder.
Well, this beat me. So here we go. We're going to remove this. I didn't get very far. You know, it's just a silly thing that I'm saying about hating this. I do not like it, but you know, it is what it is. This tutorial is to help you women or men see how easy it could be. You know, besides the processing, the actual, oh, this didn't really go too good. So what you'll see, it maybe needed a few more seconds here. So I do have one that I had already prepared. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I do to make sure once it comes out of here, it's not going to be perfectly ready to go neither, right? It's still going to have some stuff in it. So that part was one what needs a few more minutes. So I'm gonna go, or a few more seconds. So I'm gonna go not put that one in yet. So what I'll do is I get the sifter right here. This is totally not necessary. This is what it is. Okay. So I go ahead and I just kind of go like this to make sure that it's in the form that I like it. Okay. So yep, all that's looking pretty good. Everything's looking good. It's all falling through. And the texture from the machine is never going to be what you get once you do it with the rock. With the rock, it's so much more floury, like messy flour, like really, really, really floury when you do it with the rock. This kind of gives you a more gritty texture, which is fine. My father prefers it a little bit like that because he can kind of, you know, taste the nuttiness a little bit more. Some people prefer it all the way broken down, creamy, 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 creamy. And this morning I had made some, and I made it that texture, which I thought I wasn't gonna like as much, but I really did. So I might have to be breaking it down a little bit more nowadays, because at first I just thought, oh, it tastes fine like this. I was just satisfied with it that way. But once I tasted this other way this morning, it really, it was really something different. It tasted more creamy and very, very delicious. So I would say, you know, find what works for you, which texture you like. Just because I like it gritty or creamy, that's not necessarily how it's supposed to be made. So I would just go ahead and figure what you like and your family likes. And you'll see all these little, these are what didn't get grinded down, right? So then I go ahead, I have another container I'll put these in, and then I bust those down with the rock, with the mortar and pestle. If you don't have those, you could just, you know, keep these little kernels to the side. But either way, or you can just have them in there. Either way, it's fine. So I'm going to use my strainer. Okay, so now that process is done. It's on the on that. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Hope everybody's enjoying this. Okay, so ta-da! This is my way. I'm going to show you how to leach. So this right here is just a dish rack, right, to dry my dishes. So I go ahead and I use this. Now this little trick was taught to me by my cousin Clarence Carrillo. I was having a lot of trouble leaching larger amounts, and he was like, oh, I just put mine in here, and I tried it, and it's been the only way that I've done it. So they sell these are called flour sack towels. They're not cheesecloth. I don't use cheesecloth because it falls through and it gets really messy, and I've lost a lot of my acorn powder doing that. So I go ahead and use this. Now you can use any kind of thin cotton t-shirt that you have, anything like that. And you don't even necessarily have to use this, but this is an easy peasy way. So I go ahead and I get this towel, and these are kind of large, and I just lay it over like that, right? I just lay it over. And these towels are perfect because you could push down and you'll have this deep basin here with plenty left over on the side. So I go ahead and do that. And then I'll grab my flour and I'll spread it evenly across the bottom. Okay. And depending on how much, so you want to, whatever you put in, so let's just say you put in 2 cups in here. You don't want it to be so thick on the bottom. You want it maybe about 1 inch across the bottom at the most. So that's just what I would say. It's not, like I said, this isn't a science yet that I've mastered, but that's just what I do. Yeah, and I can share the exact measurements of what I do after if anybody's interested. I do have that available, but I just like to let people kind of, you know, take it however they would like. And I just wanted to let you know that I am just learning, you know, this is just a few years in. I'm happy to share what I've learned, and, you know, I'm not saying this is the only way, this isn't the right way, this is just the way that I do it. So there it is across the bottom. That's really easy, right? Feels really nice too. Oh, really nice. Okay, so I come over here and I add it to my sink, and it just places, this is one that I've had already leaching. So if you guys can see, I'm gonna make some space for you to check this out. Mess if you can. Okay, so I can't really see what's happening right there, but we're gonna go ahead and fill this. If you have one of these, that's fine. If not, you just let all the water submerge all the acorn powder. Yeah. So I like to leave the water running just a little bit. There's also a new way that I figured out to do is I fill it all the way to the top with water and allow the water to just slightly run off the top over the edge of this, okay? So you let it kind of just run over. And in the beginning, you'll see the water very cloudy, but as you let it sit that way, it'll just clear the water, and it'll just be, you'll see the acorn on the bottom of your clear water, and just let that run through, let that water drizzle over the top, and it seems to speed up the leaching process. Now the leaching process could take up to, I'd like to say 12 hours. This happens for overnight. So it's a good idea to go ahead and let this run. Do it maybe before you go to bed. You know, when you go, you'll be able to have something by lunchtime. So 12 hours with the runoff, maybe I would say it can cut you down at least 2 to 3 hours in the leaching process. Okay, so let's fast forward. We waited, we went to bed, we woke up. Now it is time to make our soup. So we're gonna go ahead and boil some water. Now this is kind of important. What I want you guys to remember is that you want to add just maybe 1 cup of water. If you have 2 cups of acorn flour, you're gonna put 1 cup of water, and you're gonna let the water boil, and then you're gonna spoon feed your acorn. And I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate that. Okay, so once you got your acorn ready, here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out of, off the strainer or off the rack. Okay, you're gonna squeeze out any extra water that's left in here.
Measurements, add 1 cup of water if you have 2 cups of acorn. Okay.
Yes, so you're gonna go ahead and give that a good squeezy. Okay, and you know, you don't have to get all the water out, but because you're gonna be adding some, but it gives you a better idea of how much you got, right? It feels really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that here. Put it in my bowl. Now I'm gonna get ready. I need less water in there though, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so my sister's gonna measure out 1 cup of water here. Let me see. And I'm gonna scoop this way. Uh-oh. Hold on, something happened to it. What happened here?
You're fine. We can see you.
Go on that one. No?
Oh, whoa.
Take off that X.
But this mouse isn't moving.
Did you move your
You move the screen. Here,
We can see you guys.
put it on here. Is it not working? Put it right here, right there. Look at. See that screen? Okay.
Okay, sorry.
What? Okay, nobody's playing on it. Okay, here we go. Sorry, girls. Sorry. Okay, so we have our water boiling here. Okay, one tool I like to use is a whisk. Okay, this is an important tool because what you want to do is you want to add in your flour, your wet flour. I go 1 spoonful at a time. So this is kind of a lot, but this is what I'll be adding. About like that, okay? And I go ahead and put that, and then I whisk all that around. Like that. Then I go ahead, and I'm gonna grab, just come right like this in right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some more, add that in. And what you're gonna start seeing is the consistency thicken up a little bit. Okay? You wanna keep it from clumping. That's why we're whisking. Good. You grab another bowl or another spoonful. You're gonna add that in. Yeah, this is coming along beautifully. Okay, so then you're gonna do this, you're gonna watch it for about, I'd say I put it on low, 10 to 15 minutes, okay? I used to think it took longer. About last year, I would go for 40 minutes, right? But I started shortening the time and tasting it. I didn't taste a big difference between that time and this time. So I think it's safe to say 15, 20 minutes of this is fine on a low temperature. Stirring it, making sure you're going back in and whisking through it to make sure nothing clumps up. Yeah. Okay, so while this is boiling a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and turn on some water. Oh, okay, so that was 1 cup of water. That was 1 cup of water and about 3 scoops of the acorn. The consistency I'm seeing, actually give me a little bowl. I'm just gonna show you guys a little bit about the consistency here for now. And then we're gonna decide whether we want to add more water to make a bigger pot. So here we go. This is what it's looking like right there. If you can see that. It's kind of runny, right? Now, depending on your elder or whoever if you're making it for yourself, whatever they like, you know, some of them have preferences, some of them don't. You can choose to add some more water. If you have more acorn, so basically this is what it is. You don't want to add more water than you have acorn to thicken it up with. So you want to make sure that you have less water. If you don't have much more acorn left, you don't want to be adding too much. So you'll just go literally just a little bit at a time. I play with mine until I figure out how much acorn I have left. I look at the bowl, I check it out. I add just a little because just a little bit of water, too much can make a huge difference. Right? It makes a huge difference. Some people like it thick, and you want to remember that when it cools down, it's going to gelatinize. It's going to become sort of like a jello. So the more, like, don't think anything's wrong. That's just what it will be like. If you put it in a jar, you're going to, you know, save it. You'll see that it becomes one gelatin altogether. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I would suggest to start with 1 cup of water, have your acorn going, feed in the acorn accordingly. according to your texture that you're liking. I'm gonna turn this on, and I guess that's pretty much it. Uh-oh. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy, just the most of the time. Is this working fine?
Yes, we can
Most
hear you.
everything just takes a long time to gather, finding the tree, you know, shelling. It's a lot of waiting, like the waiting for it to dry. Those kinds of things, those are what takes the most time. But when it comes, and the leaching, okay, the leaching takes a few hours too, that's true. But when it comes down to, you know, cooking it and getting it together, for me, it just all comes together at the end. So it's definitely worth it. I would encourage anybody to get out there and try it. It's definitely not as hard as people might think it is. And the benefits of the nutrition that you get from this food is unbelievable. So I would, we're trying to revitalize this tradition and, you know, keep it going and keep it alive. For me, my father is the youngest of 18 children, born to my grandmother from Kashaya. As many of you guys might know, tuberculosis was a very, very big deal in those days. My father's the youngest of 18 kids. So he was affected, he himself had tuberculosis as a baby. He lived in a hospital till he was about 4 years old because he was, you know, he himself had tuberculosis as a baby from 6 months old. A sanitarium he was put in. But a lot of his older sisters had died from tuberculosis at the ages, you know, between 12 and 16, 17, you know, before they had families. Some of them did have families, some of them didn't. Those sisters are buried in various cemeteries here throughout Mendocino County. My dad doesn't even know, you know, where half of them were buried. But with that being said, you know, I wasn't able to learn alongside my aunties. I didn't have that available to me, but I am glad that I was able to, you know, reflect on those movies and videos and documentaries that were there and kind of, you know, take it upon myself to learn. And, you know, I'm really glad that I chose to do that. And I would encourage anybody to get out there, and maybe you don't have somebody to show you, but I'm offering that to anybody who wants to learn. Whoever wants to know, and you know, my way is just one way. I'm not a professional, but I'm always looking to get better at it and learn new things. I'm very open-minded. I encourage people to tell me, you know, what I could be doing better. You know, any suggestions. I'm not a know-it-all. I just really, you know, want to be able to teach and show people how easy it is. Do you have anything you want to add? Oh, so my sister, okay. She gathers this Indian tea here. We call it Indian tea. I think the non-native community might call it, what is it? Labrador, or maybe I've heard spice, a spice plant. But it's really, really good. So we're gonna go ahead and add that to our water and get that ready. And we still have our acorn here on cool, on low. That looking pretty good. I'm gonna add that to here, to my bowl. My father loves this in the morning before he goes to dialysis. My mother enjoys it. I have to bring them a jar anytime I come over, which is every other day. So I'm always having some leaching. The kids know, don't touch Auntie's leaching, you know, don't touch my acorn. We're not allowed in the kitchen when my acorn is bleaching. There just goes a lot goes into making it, and it's really fun. I'm really happy that, you know, the kids have learned how to do this, and everybody's kind of, you know, on board with it this year. So, you know, yeah. And it definitely pairs very good with some smoked salmon from my sister Daisy. You're up country. Smoked and prepared for herself. So she's very, very beautiful for doing that. And some seaweed that my sister Natalie also gathered right here in our home territory. So I really enjoyed having a cup of my Indian tea I'm gonna cut with my this personally. I mean the crunchy free likes a little snack. I know I do enjoy that little snack, but I also like it just like this because it tastes better and it doesn't get stuck all in your teeth. Right? So I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy my salmon, seaweed, and my acorn. And I thank everybody for tuning in today, and I hope you guys learned something. And if there's any questions, I'm here to answer those for you guys.
Thank you, Bernadette, well, and thank you too, Natalie. I appreciate you guys doing this because it was so important. I know everybody, I learned so much from you today, and you just being brave and humble.
If there's any questions before,
Okay,
go ahead and do it.
That sounds so delicious. Okay. It is